Hello and welcome to Initiating Insight with Sibongile. Namhlanje sizawuthetha nge-social infrastructure and we are joined by Advocate Sibongile Muleshe and Mr. Rendani Mudau. Sizothetha ngoku sazi uba i-social infrastructure yintoni na. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Mudau, what is social infrastructure? Ngoba bonile nje, I didn't even give an introduction or rather elaborate on my introduction as to what social infrastructure is. It's a tongue twister, social infrastructure, so I didn't want to embarrass myself. Yes.
Ndikorivuwa ororona wachipide chino ororideri yambenga program yashu inabo ndi social infrastructure. Social infrastructure refocus moka the construction and also upgrading and also maintenance of facilities, especially so that we can render the services to the communities. So most of the time you'll find that we are having a number of facilities. Sometimes we are not able to cover all of them, but there are certain ones that we prioritize. For example, we prioritize the issue of construction of early childhood development center. We also cover for the inpatient substance abuse center. We also build the old age residential home for the elderly. So those are some of the facilities that we construct in Gauteng.
Uyazi ukuthi mos uPutrendane bori shapaka chivenda and bo amba chivenda ndiko amba chivenda zabona. Yeah. So you're saying you prioritize these buildings.
Yes.
So what is your role in social development as you prioritize this building, and why do you prioritize these certain buildings or these particular buildings?
Okay, thank you for Koribo Mbuziso Ibaba Ibudzisa. Rich prioritizer una number of factors that contribute. One of them is the budget that we receive from the provincial department, which is treasury. Then after that, once we receive that particular budget, we will also look at the provincial strategy. What our current provincial strategy, right now we've got the TMR that we focus on that. We also have
what is TMR?
It's a transformation, modernization and reindustrialization.
Oh, okay.
Those are the strategies that are provincial that we follow. Also, we also look at the national strategy, which is your outcomes 12 and outcomes 13, that focus on the delivery of the ECD, which is Early Childhood Development Center. So those are the priorities that we focus on. Again, we do also have the political directives where our politicians or MEC, HOD, they will also indicate the priority areas based on the demand of that particular areas. So those are the issues that we focus on in terms of prioritization.
So, Bomodao Bojana Gai go social development. In other words, I know I'm asking it ngami, but what I'm trying to ask is, if in case maybe I'm trying to ask, what is your involvement with social development?
Okay. My background is I'm a town planner by profession.
Okay.
So that allows me to understand the infrastructure as a whole. So in terms of infrastructure, we focus also in terms of the acquisition of lands, that's why I've got that background. We also focus on the delivery of the services, which include the construction of facilities.
Okay, all right. Advocate, hi. Don't they see I'm here, a woman? Okay, I'm here. Do you mind?
No.
Welcome, Advocate.
Thank you very much.
So, how do these infrastructure or this infrastructure program benefit the community?
Firstly, I think like Mr. Mdau has said, the strategy was to ensure that services are in our communities, like your rural nodes or your townships. As we all know that in terms of the history of South Africa, we didn't have facilities in the townships. For example, government offices were always in towns and all that. So our strategy, firstly, we started it. The first strategy was the 20 PTP strategy, which was talking to the 20 poorest wards to ensure that we bring services, social services, in the sense that people that stay there then must have bakwazi ufikelela kuma social worker, bakwazi ufikelela kwi programs ezizobanceda in their communities. So yeah, that's and therefore we have ama infrastructure emalokishini and even in the rural nodes like kwaSokhulumi, yeah.
And just to speak to Mamlangeni Pimveli, when we say infrastructure, it's sometimes these English words ne kuba ngathi infrastructure ngathi ukhuluma nge-desert ne, and we're just talking about building, right?
Yeah. Okay. Social infrastructure, Sibongile, it's ama-creche la aswakhayo for abantwana that are in good conditions, that are allowing umntana ukuthi akwazi ukukhula kule environment akuyo. So senza ama-ECD, which is ama-creche, and then we also do ama-center for elderly people. Abantu abadala, they go there for like a daycare. During the day bahambe bohlala khona benze into skills ezithile, they get to get a nutritional meal, they get to do active aging, so kuba nama gym equipments where they're going to gym and all that. And we also have office spaces so that if umuntu ufuna ukudibana nonontlalontle, affectionately known as social work,
yes.
Umuntu is able to do that without ukuthi akhwele ama-taxi ayi-4 or ayi-5 before they get to those things. We also focus on having outpatient treatment centers or inpatient treatment centers for substance abuse. So abantu aba addicted to drugs, we build facilities for them to be able to go and get help, either in a form of a rehabilitation process or in a form of where anikezwe skills of how to leave the drug but also continue to be out there, within the community, which is the outpatient centers.
Okay, we need to go to a break, but before that I need to ask you a question that we will answer when we come back from a break.
Okay.
So siyazi ukuthi sesizwile introduction yethu ukuthi you are advocate Sibongile Muleshe.
Thank you.
Ungenaphi wena ku-social development? But before you answer that, we need to go to a break, so uzayiphendula xa sibuye break, ne? We need to take a break. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Initiating Insight with Sibongile. Today we are talking social infrastructure, and we are still joined by Mr. Rendane Mudau and advocate Sibongile Muleshe. And before we went on a break, besembuzo ukuthi yena, where does she enter social development?
Okay, I'm employed by the Department of Social Development as a Chief Director responsible for corporate services. One of my responsibilities is the social infrastructure, but I've got all other responsibilities in social development.
I'm curious.
Okay, I'm responsible for legal services, for communications, for information management, for ICT, and for auxiliary services.
But I was also deliberate because you couldn't have been an advocate and then uzo in a building. For what?
Yeah, we do develop ourselves. Once you are responsible for an environment, you need to educate yourself about that environment. So I did some courses in infrastructure development.
Beautiful. Mr. Mudau, which provinces are prioritized for these infrastructures?
Of course, because we are here in Gauteng, we prioritize a number of municipalities. As I indicated earlier on, we implement our projects aligned to the provincial strategy, yes. And we focus on the corridors, as Advocate Muleshe indicated earlier on, that we've got corridors, which is your central corridors, which is in Johannesburg. We also focus in western corridors, eastern corridors, northern corridors, and southern corridors. So what we are saying is that it's aligned to the regions that we also have within the department when we implement those projects. So we implement certain projects with the municipalities. All the municipalities, we also implement projects through our implementing agent, which is DID, Department of Infrastructure Development.
Advocate, how many of these infrastructures do we have? Do you know?
We have, yes I do. We've got about 21 that we completed over the years. We are currently...
How big are they, if I may ask?
Very big.
Yeah.
Currently, we are we're building
Are
11.
very big. And
I'm going to explain to you how big it is.
It's very big.
The square meter range, it depends on the facility that you
Sure.
are building.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you have, for example, an infrastructure where you have an ECD like Kwaso Kulumi only, then your square meter range will depend on how many children you want to have.
Sure.
So I can't necessarily say how many, how
Absolutely.
big.
I was
It
just
depends
teasing you,
entirely on your beneficiaries
Sure.
in that facility.
Yes.
But normally for an ECD, we look at about 100 to 120 children.
Okay.
For office space, between 30 to 40 people that can occupy the office space. And for the Center for the Elderly People, we look at about 80 to 100 people. And if it's a substance abuse treatment center, we look at about 200 bed facility.
Okay. Do these projects benefit the community? In what way? Do they
Oh,
create
yes, they
jobs at all?
do. They do. One of the centers that I always say I pride myself about is the one in Protea Glen. Because we've got a center for elderly. And interestingly, one of the beneficiaries, the name of the center is Joe Gabi.
Okay.
And one of the beneficiaries, the Umamu Growth Gabi.
Wow.
And I always say, what a way to honor a person to benefit there. So, about
Why
Gogo,
her? What's special about her?
look, it's named after her husband.
So
she's special in that way. However, we've got all other elderly people there, and the benefits are so huge. Firstly, Abagogo, they get Nabomkulu to do your active aging gym. They've got gym facilities there. We take care of them. We groom them. There's a salon there where we do their hair, we cut their nails, we massage them from time to time. They get a meal at the center, and then they get to go home after that. But during the day, they also go through different programs, whether they're going to do crafts and whatever. So the community definitely benefits from that. And sometimes,
because then those services would be rendered by the communities, a salon person, a hairdresser.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, we took people from our communities. Same as our ECDs, it's children from the same communities. And they are subsidized by the Department of Social Development, so they benefit a lot from that. You would not have that ECD where you have to pay a lot of money because it is subsidized to a certain extent by the department, including provisioning of all the furniture and all the things that they require to be in those facilities.
So in all that you've said, I then gather that these infrastructures, rather you prioritize geographical engineering around these infrastructures. In other words, if it's in Protea, then you will look for services within the Protea?
Yes.
Am I correct?
You see, one of the biggest challenges with the town planning in the previous years, and sometimes in some of the areas, that there's a lot of development, but you do not have social facilities, like schools or access to social workers or ECDs and whatever. So that's the focus of the Department of Social Development, to ensure that in the communities that you are in, you do not have to take taxis to get the services of social development, and they happen there where people are. So like I said earlier on, that the focus could be either, like it previously was the 20 forest wards that were identified by the administration of Gauteng government, and thereafter we then focused again on the rural nodes. But also we're very conscious of what happens around us. Things like, upcoming social ills like your substance abuse and substance and drug abuse. And that is why then the focus requires of us to be able to provide for these facilities.
Wow. Okay, we need to take a break. If you've just joined us today, we are talking social infrastructure, and I am joined by our advocate, Sibongile Muleshe, Mr. Rendane Mudau. We need to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Initiating Insight with Sibongile. I am joined today by Mr. Rendani Mudawu and Advocate Sibongile Muleshe, and we are talking social infrastructure. Mr. Mudawu, do these infrastructures create job opportunities for the communities? Other than just the services, when these buildings get built, in what way do the communities benefit?
Thank you for that. There are few government programs that aim to stimulate job opportunities. And one of the program is EPWP, Expanded Public Works Program, that aim to allow the community members to get opportunities where we are constructing social facilities. There are processes that need to be followed, and also we implement those projects in line with what we call CIDB, that regulate the construction industry. So for each project, when we construct, we involve your ward councillors, we involve the MMCs of that particular area, and they will assist us in terms of bringing the laborers that require or need
What
job
are MMCs? We shouldn't take things for granted.
Member of Mayoral Council.
Member of Mayoral Council.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
So we then absorb those people so that they can get job in those particular projects. And the main priority is that we need to, by the time when we complete the project, they've gained the skills, necessary skills, so that they can also get other opportunities in other projects. Some of the people who get the job, they end up getting jobs in such a way that they will stay in that particular project once we completed it. For example, you will have maybe, for example, people who will need to be there for maintenance. So those people can be there for the 5-10 years while they are maintaining that particular building.
Okay, you suggested that you develop the skill. Some of these projects, while they begin, they're an opportunity to develop a skill. So are you suggesting that then you can employ people who do not have a skill for that purpose?
Yes. You categorize according to the one that don't have skills. You also have the one that they've got semi-skills. You also have the one that they've got skills. So the intention is that the one that don't have skills, by the time you complete the project, they will have the skills. The ones that they already have the semi-skills, then they will go to another level. So by the time you completed the project, you will have different categories in terms of the people who benefited out of that particular project.
In other words, it's more like an in-service training. You train them how to do. If you're going to look for a painter, you will tell a painter, how do you hold a brush? It should not drip, it should not do this. And by the time they leave, they can paint and make their own money in terms of creating their own jobs.
It's important that we qualify this advocate, because me, Nanje, with the silly mind, I'm thinking, so I want to build a house, and you come and tell me, Guti, this person is not skilled to do it. So how do you do it, Goji? Because, with the quest too. So will this person, but I appreciate that, you do qualify that there's somebody who's monitoring or
I think as Mr. Mdawe has said,
Sure.
We are regulated by the National Building Regulations Act. And that tells you who with what skill can do what.
Sure.
So if you're going to start a structure, you'll have, for example, engineers that will do geotechs into the land.
Yes.
But then the digging doesn't require the engineer to dig. That's where you have people without a skill, for example. Putting
Because
the concrete,
can dig anyway, ne?
they will tell you where to put the reinforcement and everything, but when you put the concrete, anybody can put the concrete as long as they put it where it's supposed to be, and it will be supervised. So when we're talking about non-skilled and semi-skilled, it depends on the specific role that the person will do in that infrastructure project.
Sure, that's important, I thought.
And I also want to say that over the years, we have given opportunities to about 2,400 local contractors in the construction of this social infrastructure. And we have spent about 800 million in those into those contracts that they were subcontracting on. So definitely we have made a big dent in terms of the social infrastructure and job opportunities.
Absolutely. Yes. So when you want to say, for instance, because we raised the protea, not because it's special than the other, location. It's just for the sake of our conversation. So if you're going to build in protea, for instance, do you also do the same thing as to look for people who are compliant in terms of the Building Acts and things like that? A protea. Or it's still a struggle?
Okay, remember, we are in terms of getting a contractor, we are regulated by the tender processes. So we'll have a person who will tender for the big project.
Okay.
And in terms of CIDB, which is the building standards,
Yes.
for a big construction, you have to have a certain level of CIDB. Then
okay.
you must have subcontractors
Yes.
in that local environment. And those are the people then that will come with the
okay.
skill from local.
Okay, I understand. So how does the department source a land for these infrastructures?
Okay, it's partnerships. We get land from government, any land that belongs to government, or we partner with the municipalities, or private people donate land to government. Like in Protea, it was a private land that was donated.
Wow, okay.
And then we also, the tribal authorities, they help us and give us land, like Kwasokulumi.
Do we still have tribal authorities?
Oh yes, we do.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's why I think she indicated earlier on that we also focus on the rural nodes. So the rural nodes, there are those areas that are on the outskirts that are quite there is no services for most of them, and they're still under the tribal authority. She indicated, also advocate to say, we've got a project in Kwasokulumi where we constructed early childhood development center.
And the premier will be opening that soon because we've just finished that facility.
Yes.
It's
Wow,
an
congratulations.
early childhood development center. So we're very proud of that partnership, yes.
Okay, we appreciate your presence here. And for anything else that we did not cover, what is it that you wanted to highlight even more about social infrastructure program?
I think the first thing for me is the fact that people can access social development services. So that to me is key, and and the type of facilities that we provide. People out there are struggling with the drugs and substance abuse, and now they have facilities where they can go to and get help. Same applies to early childhood development. Sometimes you find that it's an informal settlement and children are not taken care of, and there are dangers that are involved with the facility that is there. So if we put it there, then we know at least our children are safe. Yes. And they have a very good place where they can, they can start their development at a very young age. And even elderly people sometimes they are very old on their own and they cannot get a meal. But at least we know they are assured a nutritional meal per day in that particular set, and somebody take care of them, cut their nails, and they even love lipstick.
Yes. Thank you for that. But because of time, we need to end this. You have 5 seconds to tell us what you love about your job.
I think ultimately one need to leave a legacy in terms of what kind of facilities that we are living there, and to ensure that the community out there, they're having access to social facilities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mudau. Advocate Mulesha, thank you so much for having come through. That's all the time we had for today. Our social media, in Facebook, Sibongile Mlangeni Initiating Insight. Until next time, please do take care.